Hi, I'm Penny Haslam, this time on the Workplace Confidence Podcast, an award-winning people director from the world of commercial property consultancy. We discuss diversity and inclusion under attack.
You know what? Employers need to take a bit of a stand and say, this is not right. This is really not right. We are standing together for the rights of everyone in our workforce.
Also, the slippery nature of workplace self-belief.
It kind of waxes and wanes almost. So sometimes when something has gone particularly well, I think, you know what? I am good. But a lot of the time, I'm probably thinking more like, I just need to do better.
Plus, what, me? HR Director of the Year? I don't believe it.
You know, when I went up to get the award, I was like, you know, are you sure you've made the right, sort of choice?
You asked them, are you sure?
Are you?
Or have you done a PwC and announced the wrong winner? All that and more coming up on the Workplace Confidence Podcast, where people professionals share the great work they do. My guest this time is Maria Hawley, Director of People at Fisher German, a nationwide property consultancy here in the UK. Her earlier career was in professional services before spending more than 6 years in the public sector, helping to set up the Gangmasters Licensing Authority. In 2012, she joined Fisher German as HR manager, expecting a short-term role, but she stayed to lead its HR function through major growth. Becoming people director in 2016, she oversaw the headcount quadruple to 850 employees. I kicked things off by asking Maria about her role and many responsibilities. I want to ask you about what you do all day. I mean, you're HR director. Do you just sort of stroll around, like patting people on heads and going, well done? Oh, no, not so well done, that sort of thing. Or what do you do all day, Maria? Paint the picture.
That's what my sister thinks I do. She thinks I waft in, have a couple of meetings and kind of waft out again. No, it could be literally anything and everything. So it could be presenting at our sort of early careers functions or link and learn. So, we gather our people together and have sort of learning days. I sit on the leadership team. So we're sort of looking at sort of the strategy of the whole business, not just that in relation to sort of people, what our future direction, and been involved in developing our sort of next 5-year strategy, which we're sort of about to sort of roll out. Or I also sit on the operations board. And so, sort of we're split into divisions. So I work with our divisional managing partners, and it could be sort of how we're going to sort of achieve their aims and ambitions operationally and also in connection sort of with people. I manage a diverse team. So within my people team, I have core operations, learning and development, talent acquisition and people experience. So I work with the heads of sort of the departments in sort of helping them sort of, again, achieve, what they want to achieve. And because I always joke that because I didn't look away sort of quick enough, I also, I'm acting director of risk and compliance, health and safety and facilities management.
I don't think you're doing enough. Honestly, I think you could probably... Have you considered a PhD at any point? You know what I mean? Just to push yourself, Maria, because... Oh, actually, talking of which, and thank you for painting the picture of your job, and hopefully your sister's listening and will realise that you need more respect than she's giving, you are... And I want to ask you about this because so many people come to me and they're in a bit of a state of concern about this, right? But I see you as being like the poster girl for how HR can do social media well, right? You didn't know where I was going with that, did you?
No.
So I have spotted you on LinkedIn being absolutely awesome at obviously sharing things like, hey, come and work at Fisher German, we're ace. And by the way, I do want to also ask you about your package that you give to people, your packages of joy. Like having your birthday off. All right, okay, I'll ask you about that in a minute. But your LinkedIn posts are phenomenal. Okay, just to give the listener a flavour, on LinkedIn post, right, you did one called I Love a Good Goal, right? I thought, oh, where's this going? You went 12 events in 12 months. I've smashed it. And then you talked about some of the events that you'd been to. And you don't mean business events, do you? Tell me what was... Okay, just briefly tell me what that post was all about, because that's quite fun to know about you.
So I decided I had a big birthday in December.
21.
Yeah, not quite 30. So I had a big birthday and I thought, you know what? I am going to have something in my calendar each month, because I think it's very easy sometimes, when you are busy, to let things drift or to put things on the back burner and think, I will do that next month or tomorrow. And I thought, I'm going to get these booked in. And my theme was, it was either connection, they had to be around connection, or they had to be around doing something that was out of my comfort zone.
Okay, so give me a flavour. What does connection mean? Socialising?
Socialising. So I have I met a group of friends over 30 years ago in a place that we all worked, and despite the fact that our paths have gone massively different, we all come together, and it's like we've never been apart, and there's a lot of laughter. And so we met literally a couple of weeks ago in a place called Seaburn, which is somewhere between Newcastle and Sunderland, and sort of had a great reconnection. In terms of kind of pushing me out of my comfort zone, I've never been to the opera before, and went to see Pirates of Penzance as my sort of toe in the water to opera. So went did that, and I have literally got something sort of planned along those lines.
Wow.
All of this sort of year up until the next.
Okay, so you're smashing your goal, but
Yeah.
What are the outcomes of this? What's the output? What are you experiencing from this?
Both education. So I wasn't convinced that I was probably going to like the opera, and I loved it. I thought it was really, really fantastic. And just that kind of sort of that sort of reconnection. I mean, people never say, I'm a trustee of a hospice, and nobody ever says on their deathbed, I wish I spent more time at work. What they say is, actually, I wish I'd spent more time with family, friends, connected, did things, travelled, and that's kind of where I am at the moment.
Wonderful. So now getting on to the LinkedIn approach that you've got. You've shared that. A lot of people would hesitate. A lot of people would be shy of sharing. And I know this is to be a problem or a challenge for people when they want to progress their career.
Yeah.
They want to be known, perhaps not for personal stuff so much, but they certainly want to be known for their expertise and the value that they bring. And they also would like to be able to point people towards their organisation. So operating as a kind of brand representative as well, rather than just leaving it to the brand team or the social media team and doing it on more of a personal level. But they get to that point, about to press send on the post or share it on the, share something like, what if I die? What if this doesn't work out? What happens if I get bullied, trolled, cancelled? So what enabled you to get on with this? Do you remember that sort of first time? Because you seem to do it quite regularly and quite naturally now.
Yeah, I was as nervous as anybody else when, sort of pressing, the button to post for the first time. I started in COVID. And it was, and you're absolutely right. It's a mix of the business and me, and almost like what you see is what you're going to get, or what you read is what you're going to get. I think, and it's interesting. Only this week I've interviewed somebody. So we asked them what had interested them about sort of joining the business, and they actually said, "Well, I'm a follower of your posts," and that it put the business on their sort of radar, and it had given them an idea in terms of what we were like as a business culturally, and that's part of the purpose of the sort of the post. I mean, pretty much, what you see is what you get with me. Those posts are me. Obviously, I try not to be horrendously sort of controversial, but this is me. I'm promoting the business. I'm promoting myself, the culture of the business. I also do posts about the hospice because I think, for hospice are really struggling, charitable hospice are really struggling. And I just also wanted to raise awareness of that.
It also speaks about what you are as a person, and it gives people a kind of whole view, doesn't it? In the mix.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. I think I might have seen that post as well, or one of your posts about Fisher German, because not that I was stalking you, obviously, but I was doing my background research, and I was quite impressed, I have to say, and quite drawn to the vibe that you were kind of sharing, which was like, look, we've got great things for our people. People are our greatest asset. Not only do you get a really amazing leave package, so it's like 5 weeks and then plus days, you get your birthday off as well. I loved that. And I thought, if I was looking for a job, I'd apply. I don't know what it is you do, but I'm going to apply. So yeah, it worked. But tell me about that, the leave package. Is that a real sort of draw for new people, for talent coming to you?
What do they say? There's a war for talent and talent won. And absolutely has it kind of sort of won. And I work in a sector where resource is scarce. So you have to be competitive and you have to sort of think about it. But, also we want to do the right thing by our people. And it's really nice to have your birthday off. We also give half a day on Christmas Eve and half a day on New Year's Eve, depending kind of sort of where they fall. And, during COVID times, because everybody had been so brilliant, we made the 3, the August bank holiday weekend a 4-day weekend, and we gave time off at at Christmas, because I think it's really important to value and recognise the people that are sort of working in the business, and actually, I'm not a fan of the people are our greatest asset, because they're not assets, they're humans, and I'm very much I don't really like a bit of a sheep dip approach. It's, kind of sort of one size tends to fit one. And one size doesn't fit all, and talking about sort of things that, are important, and meeting people where they are as opposed to kind of where we are.
So less policy HR, more human touch, individualised. How would that play out? Just a little mild challenge here. You've just got 800 or so employees. How might that play out with 8,000? Does it become more difficult? Have you considered that at all? Or do you not worry about it because it's not on your plate right now?
It is a challenge. I mean, obviously we've gone from 220 to 800, and it is a challenge. We invest in development of our sort of leadership and our line managers, and having them understand that, a policy. I don't want to do management by manual. I don't want to do, you must refer to this policy, etc., etc. This is about meeting people in those moments that matter, and kind of where they are. So yes, we have sort of, like every other organisation, we have some policies. But actually, if you're a working parent and you are struggling, why add a whole load of guilt onto people? Because they're already feeling guilty. They're already feeling torn between sort of work at work and home. Let's work with you, So yes, you're going to have to kind of sort of take the morning off to, sort of look after your child. How do we flex that in terms of the business getting, some time back while us kind of giving you some time? Yeah.
You're listening to the Workplace Confidence Podcast. I'm Penny Haslam, in conversation with Maria Hawley, Director of People at Fisher German. Never before has HR been in the news spotlight so much since COVID. And it's quite fascinating to watch how HR hits the headlines on a regular basis. It's really refreshing to hear from the most senior HR director in a reasonably large organisation, big enough to call itself a medium-sized business. Is that right? Yeah. Who's going, look, you got to trust people and you've got to value them. And that trust aspect, when you hear the headlines about, people who have run big organizations saying, get them back to work. It's it's like people are striking because of this, and going, hang on a minute, my rights are being eroded here. I'm a parent or I'm a carer or, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. One of our values is trust, that we sort of trust our colleagues to deliver their work. And, ultimately, it's about outcomes and output rather than and I always say, rather than your bottom warming the seat. Because if you can sit in the office and surf the net, whether you're going to, which is what obviously sort of people think if you're sort of working sort of from home. And in the business that we're in, we've always had our people out and about. They're in the field, they're looking at, they're sizing up a property, they're doing a sort of a rent review, they're valuing something, they are laying a pipe in in the land. So they're out and about anyway, and they were doing that pre-COVID. So they weren't, absolutely tied to an office chair. And we have to trust each other. We have to, we're grown-ups, we're not kids. We have to trust each other that they're actually going to do the work and deliver it, and our figures and our finances support that they are doing the work and sort of delivering. So, and I can sort of understand in some ways because we have a big early careers function. You've got to show people and you've got to coach them and you've got to train them. And there is a benefit to sitting next to the person who's overhearing them have a conversation with the client and how to handle that. But ultimately, we are grown-ups and we trust our people to deliver.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate frame in which the media has fallen into. It's a kind of either or.
Yes.
But most grown-up people directors, human resource directors that I've met have said, well, it's what works, what is business requirement, what is good for the business and our outcomes, not a kind of like go to work or stay at home and work from there. It's a very sort of binary argument, isn't it, that's been sort of talked about.
And it's pitting one against the other. And that doesn't really need to happen. There's a place for everything.
Talking of pitting things against each other, at the current time of recording, Donald Trump has just arrived in the White House as the president of the United States of America. It's looking like diversity bad, no diversity programs good, right? And in the news, people are saying, right, we're going to keep on with them, or people are abandoning them. And are we looking at the start of a big trend, Maria? I know you can't predict the future, but do you feel that within HR and within the profession, this is something that people are grappling with as an issue, and maybe it's nothing that the UK needs to worry about? Maybe that's something that you'd agree with. I don't know. What's your view?
It's a Trump stance concerns me. We've moved, as far as I'm concerned, we've moved forward. I was around, I am old enough to have been around sort of in the 1980s. I saw the persecution of, people who are gay and lesbian in connection with sort of HIV. I've also, was kind of sort of saw the race riots and I just think we've moved. I know we haven't moved far enough, but we have moved a long way. And I would hate the thought that we were going backwards into the days of persecution and the removal of rights and, providing an equitable and level playing field. And whilst, the kind of sort of the business that I'm in has had a very traditional sort of background because we generally, we started where people were coming in from sort of the rural community. So I'm going to sort of say typically kind of sort of white middle class. But we've done a lot in our sort of journey over sort of the years to create an environment that creates belonging. People feel like they belong, and whether they want to bring their whole self or they want to bring some of their self to work, that's entirely their choice. But in an environment that is respectful, that it's not toxic, that you feel uncomfortable, or you may feel that your progression is stymied, or prevented. And that it just really concerns me, both from a societal perspective, but also from an employer perspective. And I think, employers need to take a bit of a stand and say, this is not right. This is really not right. And we are, standing together for the rights of everyone in our workforce.
That is quite a big decision, isn't it, to make, especially if you are American-owned, for example. I mean, Fisher German is UK-owned, isn't it? It's owned by British private business people.
Yes.
Which is fortunate for your agenda and for your ability to be able to say that. It's probably why I asked you, actually, because you don't have, you've got a balanced view of this.
I appreciate the challenge if you have you're owned by a US organisation, or you have a US parent company, or you are spread across the world, but you either take a stand or you don't, and I think it's it's easy to kind of sort of go with the flow. But I think it's brilliant if you take that stand and say, no, enough is enough.
It's great that Fisher German is a Stonewall diversity champion.
Yes.
For LGBTQ+.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I tell you what else is fantastic, is that you won an award last year, didn't you? A couple of years ago, maybe last year. HR Director of the Year. Hello.
And that was really bizarre. Do you know what? I had come out of, I'd literally just been to the hospital for an appointment, and I came out, and a member of my team rang me and said, oh, you've been shortlisted for this award. And I was like, I didn't even know. I said, I haven't applied for this award. Where's it come from? She said, oh, no, I applied for you, but I didn't tell you. And so she had applied on my behalf, and made a lovely entry for me. And
what was the awards?
It was the the British HR Awards.
Wow.
And so it was the HR Leader of the Year. And so I went along, never in my, never ever thinking that kind of sort of that I would win.
Yeah, just going for a nice chicken dinner and a sit down, yeah?
Pretty much, yeah, sort of a bit of a breather from work. And I'd gone with my colleague Amanda, and we thought, well, have a nice drink. We'll have a drink on the way home. But there were so many brilliant individuals in the room, and I thought, there's no way on earth. And nobody could have been more shocked when my name was called out.
Tell me how that affected your levels of confidence on a personal level, because this is the Workplace Confidence podcast, after all. And I do want to ask you about this, your values of trust and valuing people, and how that affects confidence. But while we're on it, just tell me about this awards win and how that boosted you. If you needed the boost, maybe you didn't.
No, always need the boost. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because there was that. When I went up to get the award, I was like, are you sure you've made the right sort of choice? Are you sure it wasn't sort of, that was my name on that.
You asked them, are you sure? Are you? Or have you done a PwC and announced the wrong winner?
Yeah, pretty much. Because. And then it was like, oh, okay, well, the confidence or the lack of it that I feel inside probably doesn't marry with the award. And I didn't feel that I was doing anything sort of perhaps particularly special sort of to achieve the award. And it's really interesting. Before I came on the podcast, I was thinking about sort of confidence, and it kind of waxes and wanes almost. So sometimes, when something has gone particularly well, I think, you know what, I am good. But a lot of the time, I'm probably thinking more like, I just need to do better. And I think that probably sometimes is a good driver, because I'm always striving for, to do better. How can we improve? What can we do better for our people? How can we be a better business? That sort of type of thing. So it works in the favour. But I think, sometimes it is difficult, I think, to marry the external perception sometimes with the nerves or the anxiousness that goes on inside. And I think that happens for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about workplace confidence. Yeah. Because it's probably the only environment, the arena in which we have to display confidence, where we might not always be feeling it. And it doesn't seem to matter whatever level you are. It doesn't seem to matter what level you are. It might be that you're a junior news star or a senior executive director. It doesn't have to be a personal, private challenge. I think the more we talk about it, the more we deal with it, the more it becomes a kind of, that's how things are in life. We are literally all making it up as we go along. And sometimes we feel unsure of that, and sometimes it's okay. But as long as we're in it together and talking about it, it's going to be less of a burden. I
absolutely agree. Definitely. You speak to other people, don't you, who you admire, who absolutely exude confidence, and you think, wow, you're amazing. And then you have a chat with them and they sort of say, oh no, I'm feeling quite sort of nervous. I've got to stand up and speak in front of 100 people, or I've got to
make a phone call.
Or I've got to make a phone call. It could be literally anything, and the particular challenge sometimes is the more difficult somebody feels that conversation is going to be, the more the nerves and the confidence drops. And
the kicker is that we know it's our confidence, don't we? Yeah. We know that if we could just get more self-belief, everything would be a lot better. So we're in this kind of conundrum of having to display it, needing more of it, and feeling not quite sure of ourselves. How does that play out for your intergenerational employee base? Because you've got 5 generations under one roof. Have they got different levels of confidence, do you think? Are they displayed in different ways? Or are they all hunky-dory, estate agents with clipboards? Yep, know exactly what I'm doing. Going out in the field, lay the pipe here, no problem.
Yeah.
Just
different. I mean, yes, definitely sort of different generationally. I think our... and I'm going to sound very stereotypical, but our younger people are probably more confident in terms of asserting for what they want, advocating for what they want, whereas they are less confident about picking up a phone, actually making a phone call. They'd far rather message, they'd far rather use Teams or email, in terms of their sort of interpersonal sort of communication. Whereas our sort of older generations, and we have people in the business who are within their 70s, absolutely will much prefer picking up the phone, having a face-to-face chat, conversation, etc. But are probably, and I would count myself in this probably generation, are more of I'll prove to you what I can do, and then you'll show me what you can give me. Whereas, I would probably, our younger generations are, show me what you're going to give me.
Yeah.
I'll prove to you what I can.
I'm in the burnout generation with you. I'm like, I'll show you what I can do, and I'll burn out, and I'll be back.
Very much so. Yeah, I'll do everything. And
I've seen Melanie Griffiths in Working Girl. I can do that.
Absolutely. I can do everything.
Yeah. This is a fantastic insight into your world, Maria, I have to say. I love the fact that you've got on top of social media and it's paying off for you on LinkedIn. I love the fact that you've got so much going on a personal level with your employees. They must really enjoy being under your management, your directorship, in order to, have their birthday off and find their way. It's such a wonderful approach. Are there any threats to this approach, do you think, in the growth plans that you've got?
I think one of the challenges, so, when we were about 400, I knew everybody, knew absolutely everybody. And now we're at 800. I don't. And as we continue to grow, you lose touch, I think, with people. But one of the things that we do, and our managing partner is equivalent to the chief executive, is that, we do go around to all of the offices, and we'll do that within a year, and we will sit and work in sort of the environment, because I don't want to be the HR person that turns up when something's gone wrong, or just turns up when something's gone wrong, so I go and I mingle and I chat, because I think also you get to know what the issues are, what's actually, what's really important to somebody that's actually probably, in the scheme of things, quite minor, and you can tweak it and you can make it work. We also, in terms of not wanting to lose contact, so 1 month we meet with our mental health first aiders, and we get an idea in terms of a temperature gauge of the business, and then and well-being of people in the business. And then the following month, we have a group of representatives from around, again, from each office, in which, we talk to them about, what's going on, what's happening. We also give them a budget so they can arrange socials and interactions, and we do charity events through them. So while we've been talking, I've just seen a message pop up of somebody, they're having a cake competition and raising money for charity is sort of at the same time. And it just gives us because we can't be in every office every day, but it gives us a flavour and a temperature gauge in addition to our annual survey.
So how would you, the annual survey looks after itself in terms of quantifying that data.
Yeah.
How do you interpret the investigative approaches that you've taken through being a visible leader out on the road amongst your senior team, meeting with the mental health first aiders and the office, representatives? How do you gather that and reflect upon that so it's more purposeful? As it's, otherwise it just becomes a bit of a chat, doesn't it, with your colleagues and your peers at your level?
Yeah. So, so that anecdotal data combined with our survey data, we use that to inform both our wellbeing plans, our social sort of plans, and together with our, strategy. So if it's quite sort of clear that we have one particular office that may be struggling, and sometimes that can be a lack of visible leadership, or it could be that, actually that office just needs an update. It needs an absolute refresh, or, they can see that kind of other offices are getting that. And so it literally sometimes it's the practical things that, really frustrate people, i.e. the tea, coffee, toilets, parking, that sort of things. Or sometimes it's really major things like quality of line management, the role, rewards, recognition, etc. And it's just feeding that all back into the plan. And in terms of sort of the communication, one of the things that we try and do a lot is our managing partner does a town hall every couple of months, so we can all log on, and he talks about sort of where we are as a business. He's really open. He'll take lots of questions. He is really honest in terms of, where we are, our direction, that sort of type of thing, combined with sort of regular sort of updates. So we try and, communication is two-way, so we have the, leadership sort of feeding out, but we take that information and then we use it sort of to inform. So, during COVID times, we used it to inform things like, cost of living was going up. So we did a temporary increase, a temporary £100 for everybody for 5 months. As a thank you.
You're making your people feel valued, and you've thought about them.
Yeah.
Out in the real world, you've actually given that some thought and you're caring for them. And I just see that as being incredibly useful for building one's confidence in an I am wanted, I am cared for, I have a place here, it goes much further than many other things, and it's so simple to do. I'm surprised more businesses don't approach things like this.
And in that, in those moments of matter, and that sort of, lack of sort of confidence, I'm just thinking of somebody who absolutely was really struggling, and we organised an external coach to provide, some coaching around their building their confidence, dealing with difficult situations. And we've done that so many times and I also think, training is great, but sometimes in confidence, it's such a personal thing. And sometimes it just relates back to things that have happened, at a younger stage in your life. And therefore,
You're not going to talk to your line manager about, are you?
You're not. But if you get the opportunity to go and talk to a coach and they can work with you in terms of, what those issues might be, then absolutely. And I know that we have people still in our business because we took that approach with them because they didn't feel that they had to kind of get up and go elsewhere, either to gain that confidence or to be dealt with as a human.
I'd be interested to see you up against like the big names of, the conglomerates or the big organisations I referenced earlier who'd be like, back to work. All right. I'd love to see you up against them and just evidencing that your approach has far more impact on individuals and therefore your organisation's ability to grow efficiently and effectively versus this sledgehammer to crack a nut, Maria. I'd love to see that. Are you up for it? I'll organise a panel.
Absolutely up for it. Completely up for it. To credit to larger organisations, I appreciate the difficulties, particularly if you've got a parent company dictating to you, or you've got property empty and you want to sort of put people sort of back in.
Or you've grown up being one person who I always had to go into work. Why shouldn't these people? They must just be coasting at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
With your feet on obviously watching the daytime telly and doing your washing.
Yeah,
but
which is what your sister thinks, isn't it? That you do.
It is. She thinks I waft in, have a few meetings, waft out,
waft in, waft out. Yeah,
waft in, waft out. But I do think rather than, I think they just really need to seriously think about, if we want to keep people, and resource is so short and talent is so short
and expensive to replace
and over 50% of the UK workforce are looking for another job. Why are you forcing people to back into literally a box because you think that life is going to be better because their bottom is warming the seat as opposed to actually being productive?
Maria Hawley, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks to Maria. I love her people-first approach to talent at Fisher German. She's clearly deserving of her HR Director of the Year award. If you're a people professional with insights to share, drop me a line. We'd love to have you on the podcast. You can email me, hello@bitfamous.co.uk. Thanks for listening.